Yo, what's going on? It's someone that's no one here today, and today we're gonna dive into the time I explored this abandoned prison in our town after a party we went to that got shut down, which wasn't surprising given the location, but we'll get into that a bit later on. Now, this took place a few years ago at this point, but it was around this time I was starting to get into drugs more heavily. I was definitely in a party mood in general, and was somewhat anxious to get fucked up, you can say. The people who I ended up with this night is somewhat of an odd group, as I haven't even been with some of these people since this day. The first and main person I planned on going with was Michael, which Michael is a classic in my stories. He's pretty much in every single party story on this channel now that I think about it. But if you know anything about Michael, he's a friend of mine who will liven things up. He likes to encourage getting more fucked up. He's a good wingman, and whatever is fitting for the case. Now, I had this other friend from high school. We'd never partied before, and we've never really hanged out up until this point. We'll call this dude Bryce. Bryce is this tall, expressive guy who hadn't even done drugs before other than an edible. And he told me he did try smoking before, but I guess he had really bad asthma and had to go to the hospital or some shit. But at the same time, from what I heard, he was somewhat of a tweak when he got high, so who knows exactly. He did tell me some guy at the party ended up giving him an edible, and I think he had a sip of beer we got, but to be honest, he was pretty excited just to turn up. Now, I tried to get some other people to go as well. Normally I like to roll with a decent sized squad, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Now let's get into things a bit more chronologically. Michael and I talked a few days before, and he told me he had to work until like 11 or midnight or some shit like that, and he wouldn't be able to come till after. Which, yeah, that sucks. He wouldn't get to start out with us, but he would still be there for peak hours, no doubt. Bryce and I linked up about around 9, which was when the party was starting. We were hanging for a bit, taking some shots of a bottle I had on me, which was fucking New Amsterdam pineapple, which I'm pretty sure Marcel or someone gave it to me, and I didn't feel like going through the trouble of getting another bottle, so this night was filled with shots and beer for the most part. Bryce didn't pregame for shit, but we were kicking it for a while till about 9:30, and we called up an Uber. I had the bottle and shit bagged up for discretion, and we got picked up. Now, when we pulled up, there was already a decent amount of people at this party on the block, and the Uber ended up dropping us off a couple blocks away. But regardless of it, it still looked like things were just getting started, and Bryce suggested that we slide to his homie's place just a few blocks away and see if he wanted to come. We walk over there, and I never met this dude before, but we all went to the same school. We'll call this guy Caesar. Now, along with Caesar was his younger sister and his little brother. His sister being about the same age as Bryce, with his little brother being about 14, which we'll call this little guy David. The girl doesn't really matter, she pretty much just ends up on Bryce's dick the whole night. Now, Caesar actually had to go into work also for a bit before he could show up, so instead, his sister and his little brother David would be joining us. So we got more of a group going on, and I'll say that me and David kinda hit it off. I could easily see that he had a desire to explore the party life, and I was pretty much down to make sure, he had a good time. I didn't really care at the time, but don't encourage this type of behavior, especially for a dude this young. But I offered David a couple shots, and just from his fresh, naive reaction, I knew he was in for a ride. But anyways, we walk back to the party, and it's a bit more established at this point. There isn't any music or anything, but people are out and socializing freely. I ran into a few people I knew, talked and shit, and I was actually able to score some smoke off a dude too I met there. And I remember this guy was like rolling and trying to recruit people for another party, which is like a whole half hour away. Like ridiculous, most people aren't going to be doing that, especially when there was a party right there. But I guess he had some vision, because you guys see the title. But I hit the blunt a few times, I'm feeling crossed, pretty giddy, and enjoying myself with Bryce, David, and the rest of the crowd. A Mexican band eventually comes through and sets up in the back. We actually happened to be smoking right when they were setting up. And I'm going to point an example of the kind of music that be at these parties I talk about. It is definitely more cultural and local around here, but it doesn't mean it's not going to work for a good bumpin' party. Now for Bryce, this music pretty much just activates him, which I mean, he's trying to get in there and bust a move. David and I aren't really trying to dance like that. I mean, I ain't totally against dancing, but my calling is definitely more of a king of the hill type of vibe. So we went off to the side and up into this loft, which was kinda in the yard. It was still connected to everything going on, and we had some free room to move the bottle of vodka around, which at this point, I wanted a little something different. Now of course at this party there were just some guys standing around with coolers sitting below them, and I didn't really feel like getting up and asking, plus I thought it would be amusing to have David go ask for a couple beers. It was pretty hilarious. David was, pretty short and generally had a baby face still at this point, so he went up to the people and they just laughed at his ass, thinking he was joking and shit. So of course I gotta go down there, and even this fucking guy questions me, asking my age and shit, which of course I wasn't the legal drinking age, and he even reminds me of it, which in the back of my head I'm drunk as fuck already off some vodka, so it was kind of goofy, but I get a beer and we're definitely on our king of the hill type of vibe now. All the while, Bryce checks in and out with us, which he actually sips some of my beer too. Now beyond beer, I actually happened to see an old familiar face from, I believe the El Ranchero. He was with us, but Richard. Richard was a cousin of Aaron, he's a really good friend of mine, and I know he's with this shit, so I just made the assumption this dude probably has some shit on him, and I told David, hey, go check if that guy right there has some of that white girl. Which, yeah, if I could get lucky, maybe he'd slide me some cocaine. Sadly, he was only looking to sell it, and, I only had alcohol. I was trying to trade him that, but he wasn't going for that. So sadly, no white girl this night. But Bryce easily becomes a centerpiece of the party. He literally starts breakdancing, doing all these crazy spins that gets everyone hyped up. I'll just say that things were bumping for a bit, and I was pretty much excited about the fact that Michael would be joining us too. But all this only lasted for so long. Like as soon as Michael told me he was coming is when someone said cops. Which, what are you gonna expect? It's a backyard party in a suburban area right next to the town, and we have this band blasting away with playing. It was bound to happen at some point. Now, I wasn't really worried. Most people tend to be when cops come into these situations, but most of the time, at least around here, the cops are just looking to end the party and the noise. Most aren't going to try and run a big search or anything like that. So I just killed the beer I had and told David to get up. Now we weren't exactly trying to dip right away. We didn't know exactly where to go, and we were split up. Now I have to watch David closely. This dude got pretty shit-faced, which he didn't need a lot for his size. But dude was just sloppy, stumbling, could tell he was light in the head, didn't have a great sense of direction or balance. Like you just knew this kid was drinking. So we walked up to the back deck, and Michael came through out of nowhere and said what up quickly, but went around directing people. He was like making sure people weren't going to do anything stupid with the cops. Now I'm pretty sure the mother of the house saw David, and I was just kind of standing around, and she said to me, he can't be out here like this, and she pulled us both in to wait inside. Which, hey, cool situation, we gotta wait inside the house. And I remember the cops knocked on the door too, and they pretty much said they were there to shut down the party. Which at this point, things start to slowly die down. I find Bryce along with David's sister again, and we're joined by Michael this time too. We walk out and past the cops, doing routine shit. None of us are questioned or anything, and we walk back to Caesar's place, as he was supposed to be getting off soon. Which Michael happened to actually know Caesar already, so it made things much smoother. Now none of us were ready for this night to end. I mean, we just linked up with Michael, so we had to do something. And I don't know who brought up this idea, but we decided we should go and explore the prison. Sounded better than being inside bored, so we quickly were on our way and walked there. Now of course I don't recommend this. You can get arrested for this type of stuff, and you may end up with some pretty ugly fees. But Caesar and Michael knew a secret way through and into the prison. If I remember right, we had to follow like this path and then either climb up or down into a certain opening, and just like that, we were past the main entrance. I do have this one photo I'm going to show I took right before my phone died, so I wasn't able to get anything else, but there was pretty much stuff everywhere on the wall, which added to, the creepy vibe this place had. Now, I think Caesar's sister and David, they were somewhat scared, and I had a similar sense of fear, like a ghostly one, or like, just the past, I guess. But my bigger fear was making sure I wasn't gonna fuck my shit up in here or have anyone else get hurt, because all up and throughout this place there were like certain chunks of the floor missing, certain chunks of the wall. The walls were just shredded everywhere, and it just felt kind of unstable in general. And we needed like at least 2 flashlights on the whole time, or it was impossible to see through. But we got to saw a good amount of the prison at least. We went through the showers. I think we went through the library, the cafeteria, the yard. I think there was even this greenhouse area, the bathrooms, the basements, and just everywhere really. Which Caesar was guiding us the whole time, and thankfully he knew his way around fairly. And it was somewhat nerve-wracking at points. We had to fucking climb up ladders, leap from place to place and whatnot. I remember one point we ended up on the roof and literally slid down to a lower portion of it, which, I was fucking drunk off my ass the whole time, so pretty nerve-wracking. But it was definitely a unique journey. When we ended up in the cafeteria, we took a break, which there, me and Michael killed the rest of the vodka. Bryce then proceeded to throw and smash the bottle on the ground, which was fitting, I suppose. But we stayed there for like 2 or 3 hours, just checking shit out, and eventually we make our way back out. It was really stupid how tight some of the areas were, but hey, we made it out safe and sound and walked back to Caesar's place. No trouble on the way back. Which at that point, we just decided to call it. Bryce decided he was going to be staying at Caesar's, mainly because of his sister. Michael and I went back to his place, and I just called up an Uber. We said our goodbyes for the night when my ride showed up, and I just went home and pretty much crashed. So I hope you guys did enjoy this story. This is, one of my typical nights when I was in party mode a few years back. It's pretty entertaining, give you some insight into my life and whatnot as well. So if you guys want to hear more stories like this, let me know in the comments below and we'll get to it. If you guys did like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, follow the socials. It's been someone that's no one, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.